Over the years, I've asked a lot of questions of a lot of leaders. There's only one that really has a consistent response, and that's when I ask them if they're trying to improve. You know the answer every time, almost instantaneously. It's yes. And they'll start to go into something that they're working on. And then I ask them to stop for a second. I say, well, what I meant was, are you trying to improve your performance? That changes the equation every time, because a lot of what it takes to be a leader is autonomy, confidence. You got there for a reason. You climb that ladder. You're a really good performer. You might have a great performing organization. But the question really is about their performance. Is the leader working on their performance? So recently I was digging through some of the materials that I produced 14 years ago. I put out a blog about concept of defensiveness. The analogy at the time was that we were coming up with prescriptive analytics that would outthink and outsmart humans, because humans aren't capable of making those calculations. And we were using linear modeling to assess the activity-based costs of organizations to do profit analytics and profit prescriptive analytics. The companies that were utilizing those techniques were succeeding, increasing their profits by 8 to 20% regularly. And the managers who weren't, the leaders who weren't, were really just defensive about what had gotten them there. They believed that anything could be figured out on a spreadsheet. They didn't understand the concept. They would talk to their CFOs or their accounting side folks, and those people were also obviously successful and doing what they'd been told and believed in their products. And their products were right for what they were doing. But what it really came down to was defending their position versus looking at something else that could be much more creative and successful. So today, 14 years later, the questions answered the same. But what I really noticed is that it's the AI generation. 24 months ago, most leaders would be worried about AI, threatened by it, concerned about whether or not it was going to help, how it was going to affect everybody. I think we know now very clearly that AI is capable of doing analytics on your spreadsheet, similar to what we did with prescriptive analytics and linear modeling, at a much lower level. You can do this with just about anybody who can understand what your spreadsheet is. You can put that in. So not that AI is the solution, and there's certainly some fears around AI, but the question is, are the leaders being defensive? Defensiveness is going to cost you profits. It's just that simple. What we defend in our business is usually something that has worked for us successfully. That's a defensive posture. The offensive posture is looking for something that's going to give us an advantage over our competition, make our clients happier, make our customers happier, be smarter than the other folks. The trend in some of the industries I've been in is to do what the other guys are doing. When the ERP craze came on, and it still exists, there was it was a promise that it was going to solve all problems. It's going to give us all the data for all of our problems, and all of our decisions were going to be made. The challenge was that having all the data didn't make you successful. It was still about what information did you need. So there were several companies I've worked with that were moving to an ERP, but they had never even established their metrics at a level that they needed that information. So if you don't know what your metrics are and how you're going to measure your success, it doesn't do you any good to have more data to put into those metrics, since they don't exist. So, part of what the HBR, if you go into Harvard Business Review, I love Harvard Business Review is one of my sources. Again, what I'm trying to do is bring the best possible resources available to my clients and help them proceed. But the 4 immediate impacts that we see is when defensiveness drops, true contribution clarity becomes available. Optimal decisions start being made. You're able to see the constraints much more clearly, and ultimately you're working towards a best possible, not better than last. That's one of the things, the telltales, when I start hearing people talking and being very proud of better than last. That's incremental. And business doesn't move at that rate anymore. It really never did. But there were so many people thinking the same and kind of following the lead of their competitors that was okay. It's really not anymore. It never was, but with all the automation and all the AI and all the technology we've got these days, it's even more behind the times. If you're interested in trying to figure out how to get your team or yourself, preferably, first, to become less defensive and figure out ways to make your leadership style more on the offense and try to find more profitability in your business, give us a call at Pilot Advisors. That's what we do for a living. We'd love to help.